Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm Mike Simpson, Superintendent of Guthrie Public Schools. We're glad you're joining us today where we talk about all things Guthrie Public Schools. And today we have somebody that has not been on Chalk Talk
No.
before, Susan Cox. And Susan is our Child Nutrition Director. She is, her department is responsible for all of the meals that we serve to our students and staff. And so, Susan, welcome to Chalk Talk. We're glad to have you today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
You bet.
Pleasure.
So tell us a little bit about you and how you came to Guthrie Public Schools.
Okay, well, I work for Sodexo, a food service contractor, and I've actually been with them going on 23 years.
Okay.
And so I had worked in the Oklahoma City area for a couple years in child nutrition, and then this position came up, and I was really excited to post for it. I'm originally from a small town of 3,000 people. And so this was very familiar to me to be into a small area. So I was just really excited to come on board and run the food service program here.
Well, let's talk a little bit, before we get into the nuts and bolts of every day, let's talk a little bit about the relationship that Guthrie Public Schools and Sodexo have, because it's really kind of it's not a real common relationship, because you're an employee of Sodexo,
Right.
but your staff all work for Guthrie Public Schools.
Right.
So take that and run with it a little bit.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that was actually the first time I've experienced kind of that work relationship. It's actually been really amazing to work with the school district, working with Doug and all the resources that are there. The staff, have been here for a long time. They know what they're doing, which is makes my job so much easier because they're very well versed in what all goes into child nutrition. And so as the contractor, we just come in and just kind of manage that piece and just kind of help the school district keep everything in line of what we're supposed to do to meet guidelines and that kind of stuff.
So tell me, why is that a benefit of Guthrie Public Schools as opposed to us having it completely in-house? Because I've worked in districts that had it completely in-house, and this was new for me when I came to Guthrie too.
Okay. So that kind of takes the liability off of the school. So we're like responsible for making sure that we have all those components that are needed to meet those regulations with the USDA. We have a regional dietitian on staff that she does the menus to make sure that the daily and the weekly nutritional needs are met. So that way, when they come in and they do the audits of the menus and how we're serving, and if we're making sure that we're meeting those guidelines, that we're meeting them and we're not in any kind of violations. But so like I said, we just kind of take that burden off of the school district, so that way you guys can focus on the classrooms and then let us focus on that part for you guys.
And if I'm not mistaken, you have some buying groups that we can get better deals on some of our stuff because of the relationship with Sodexo as well.
Yeah, just the sheer volume of buying that we do in the United States. It just kind of gives us access to some better contract prices. So for food, for equipment, that kind of stuff, it just helps save some money. Just makes it streamlining a lot more benefits. So
that's great. So when I've introduced Susan before or talked about child nutrition, I always say that she runs the largest restaurant in Logan County because she really does, because it's even a larger operation. I don't know if you serve more meals than Langston University because they serve dinner, but we probably serve more meals because of just the sheer numbers that we have. So what does a day look like as far as the number of meals you serve between breakfast and lunch?
Of course, that's going to depend on the school and the population, but overall, breakfast is usually like 1,400 meals. Lunch, we are closer to like 1,700 to 1,900. It kind of depends on the day. We have certain days of the week that are more popular than others, like Pizza Day is extremely popular even for breakfast.
I might hear that at home from my kids too, by the way.
Who doesn't love pizza for breakfast or for lunch? So, but you can definitely see those trends with the kids and what they enjoy the most.
So what goes into the menu, and what goes into how you come about with the fact that we're going to have pizza today, we're going to have hamburgers this day, or whatever else?
Well, as I mentioned before, our regional dietitian, she does create those menus. However, once those are published for us and we have access to those, I can go in there and do some edits. So what I've kind of done is just kind of like sought feedback, whether it's from the managers or from students, kind of looking at trends of what they kind of enjoy the most. And when you get into certain areas, there might be a little bit difference in what the kids might eat. And so sometimes I'll kind of do a little bit of tweaking on the menus, look at something and go, I don't think that they care for this very much, but they really like this, and make that menu change for that day to something that might be a little bit more popular. But just trying to balance out especially on those 2 hot entrees that you see in the elementary. There's more entrees when you get into secondary, but when you get that into the elementary, just really kind of balancing that out to where it's 2 items that are, going to be almost the same in popularity, so that it's not, oh gosh, we've got 2 unpopular things, and that's all there is for the kids to eat. We try to balance that out to make sure that it's pretty even that way.
Okay, so did I hear it right? You do have a student input module or component into what goes on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I do seek the input from the kitchen managers, because they're like front line. They know, they hear those students coming through, they hear those comments. But also going in and doing like a questionnaire of, hey, what's your favorite breakfast item, or what's your favorite lunch? And kind of compiling that by school and kind of looking at what those popular items are, so that, and the thing of it is sometimes they come up with something that we don't even have on the menu, and so then what I do with that is I can reach out to my nutritionist and say, hey, do you have a recipe for this? And if not, it's something that the regional chef can put together, make sure those nutritionals are there, and then be something that I can load into that menu cycle, so the kids, when they come through the lunch, they can look at it and go, oh wow, my idea, there's what I asked for, is right there.
Wow.
So I think it's a good feeling to know that they do have input into what they what they're having on the menu.
Sure.
So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about. I know that we took a big step toward regulating what could be served. And from my understanding, we've taken a little bit of a step back and given the school districts a little bit more latitude now on what can be served to the students. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We were so excited that the USDA kind of loosened up some of the guidelines because we were having to serve, to meet guidelines, we were having to serve whole grain pasta, whole grain rice, whole wheat pizza crust, and even when you're at home, I'm sure on most shelves in your pantry you're not going to find brown rice and whole wheat pasta. Not my favorite.
You mean the cardboard?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's a step up from that, yeah. And so we were beyond excited that those regulations were loosened up. And so this fall we introduced white rice and just the regular pasta, which allowed us more variety in that pasta too, because one of the items that we added on the fall menu was homemade lasagna.
Okay.
Where that wasn't necessarily a product we had access to before. This opened up that door for us. And then the other change with the whole grain was in the high school pizza. They got to have regular pizza crust. So super exciting.
I remember
Believe me.
when those regulations first came in, I remembered eating some of that pizza, and I thought,
it's okay, but
I'll try and put on a good face for the kids, but it really wasn't. And so
it's just it's. And also, even not only taste, but the other advantage has really even been with our staff who has to cook this, because it was a little hard to handle, to get everything right with cooking the whole grain pasta and the rice. If you've never done that at home, I'd encourage you to try. But this, it's just so much easier to cook it and get it, perfect. So
that's great. That's good to know, because I'm happy that that they've allowed us to make more local decisions on that kind of stuff, because as a parent, I always want to know that my children are going to have a nutritious meal, but I also want them to enjoy it, because what I saw with a lot of kids with all those regulations, they weren't eating the school food. They were bringing their own, or going to an a la carte line where the things that they were eating was not as healthy. And in many cases, the a la carte line is not eligible for the free and reduced students, and so that's a financial hardship that they're bearing. And then you got the nutrition, the portion regulations were something that really made a lot of headlines. And you think about adolescents, especially those that are in after-school athletics and things like that, and having that energy to get through practice. And so I'm happy that we've done that. I think that's good for kids, like we always say.
Absolutely. And the other thing that you would see, is also maybe stuff going in the trash can, and then maybe they didn't eat, and then they're hungry. And in some households, you've got a pantry full of food that they can go home and snack away, but then you've got other households that they just don't have that luxury, and so then the kid, the child is hungry. So it was very unfortunate that it was just so tight with those regulations that it kind of put that that student in that situation.
Well, Susan, I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the most difficult decisions I have to make as superintendent is when, as we've got the weather getting ready to start, the bad weather, and especially if it's a Monday or a Friday, because I know that we have students at home that maybe have not, the families may not have prepared for the kids to be home on Monday, and they may not have the food, and we bridge that gap, and that's a responsibility I know that you take very seriously, and it's something that I see in our kids' faces when they're in the lunchroom. So
it is, and that it is a very tough situation, and so that's why I feel like what we do every day is very, very important. Providing that meal for that student that might have that hardship at home. So.
Without a doubt. So appreciate everything that you do for Guthrie Public Schools. Thanksgiving lunch is coming up.
Yes.
When is that going to be?
That is November 19th.
November 19th.
At all locations. And do you want to know the venue?
I'm guessing turkey and dressing, but go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to do sliced turkey and dressing, mashed potatoes and gravy, the green beans, cranberry sauce, and dessert's going to be apple crisp. So
diet takes a holiday.
Yes, it is. Every once in a while we can kind of sneak in a little something, but yeah, absolutely. It's
great.
It's a very popular day, and the kids love it. Big smiles and wide eyes coming in, waiting for that turkey.
And I think we do some things where the high school kids come around.
Absolutely. So as you can only imagine, our participation that day is a little higher than normal. And so what we do is I reach out to Mr. LeGrand, the high school principal, and ask for student volunteers, and they come in our kitchens and they help us serve, and we treat them to free lunch as well. But I tell you what, the young kids, they get such enjoyment seeing those football players, cheerleaders, baseball, softball, all these different students that come in. I think it really kind of adds to that day being very special for them. So
good stuff. Well, I can't wait. I know. I always look forward to that day. Well, again, thanks for being with us today and sharing a little bit about what you do for Guthrie Public Schools and our students.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching today. This is Mike Simpson with Susan Cox, our Child Nutrition Director, and thanks for joining us on Chalk Talk.